Well, I will go ahead and get started. All right, so today we're going to kind of talk about virtual races and what we've seen for the races on our system, who are physical races that have added a virtual option or a virtual component, and then virtual only races. And if you have any questions, you can email me, and you can spell my name with one L or two. It doesn't matter. I like two, but I really only have one. So today we're going to cover virtual races. What are they? They're relatively new, but the virtual race community is growing. Set up some of the best practices that we've seen and tips and tricks for how to set your virtual race up on RunSignup and things that work the best for promoting them. Virtual results, our virtual results text notification system, using referral refunds and referral rewards with your virtual race, building engagement around your virtual race, and then we'll go through. We'll save the fun stuff for last, so some of the stats. So, what, why, and where? So just last night at dinner, I overheard someone talking about how stupid they think virtual races are, and I asked them, oh, how many races do you do a year? Oh, I do a race every other week. Right, so virtual races usually aren't for serious runners. And so that's why you'll get that type of feedback from serious runners. But a virtual event or a virtual race is something that people complete on their own, anytime, anywhere. And why? What is the appeal to virtual runners? So there's a few different reasons. The one that I see coming up the most, based on all of my internet stalking in virtual Facebook groups, is a lot of people, they want to be part of a race, they want to do something, but they're intimidated by actually going to a physical race. They might think they're going to be the last person or they aren't ready yet. So virtual races are a great start for people who aren't ready to do a real race yet. And then some of the other reasons are maybe they want to do your race, they do it every year, you added a virtual option, they can't afford to travel to your race this year, or they just really like the medal. It's something fun to do with friends, and it keeps them motivated along the way. Maybe they have a half marathon coming up in a few months, and they just want to do some training runs on their own. And where are virtual runs completed? That's the best part. You do it anywhere you want, so you pick. So two different types. Adding an option to your physical race, so you already have a half marathon or a 5K or a 10K, you're adding the virtual option for the people who can't make it, for your returning runners who want to participate every year but they'll be out of town, or just for people who don't feel comfortable enough to go and participate in a crowd but they still want to do it on their own. And then virtual only race, just like it sounds. And we'll go through stats at the end, but it was interesting. I was actually surprised when we went through and pulled all of the data. So we had, in 2019, we had just over 22,000 races. 1,400 races were physical races that added a virtual option. And then we had 128 virtual only races. And this is from my internet stalking, but here's some fun quotes that I found. So this kind of shows you the appeal, why people register for virtual races, and some of the things on Facebook pages and posts, so I'll do anything for bling. I won't read them all because you can read, but those are some of the fun ones that I found. So virtual setup. How do you actually set up a virtual option in a physical race or a virtual only race, and what do we recommend on RunSignup? So the first step, when you're adding the event to your race or adding a virtual only race, you want to make sure that in the race wizard, you set the type as a virtual race. If you're planning to use our virtual text results or our text notifications, you'll only be able to turn that on if you've classified your event as virtual. But it also helps with SEO and when people are searching for races, because virtual races are growing, more and more people are searching for virtual races on the Google. So shipping settings. There's an S missing. In the back end of the race, we do have a shipping. It's not a feature. We don't calculate the shipping amount, but We do have a direct integration with the USPS API. So think about when you're buying something on Amazon, if you type in your address incorrectly, when you go to checkout, it says, did you mean this address? And it corrects it for you. So we have that integration with USPS. You can turn it on for your race. You can turn it on for just one single event in the race. But the other use case is a lot of people, they don't think about the address in their RunSignup profile if they aren't having anything shipped to them. And a lot of people forget to update it. Some people have a profile that's 9 years old. They've never updated their address. So this forces them to confirm their address during the registration process. I highly recommend adding a virtual race acknowledgement question. So you can do a mandatory checkbox question that will appear as a custom question during registration where they have to actually acknowledge that they understand they're signing up for a virtual race. I went and worked Coronado Bridge Run Packet Pickup this year. Their event sells out about 2 to 3 weeks before their race. So they added a virtual option. They did not have this question. They had about 300 people sign up for the virtual option. I personally talked to about 295 of them who didn't understand that it was a virtual event. So this is important, and it will save you some confusion at packet pickup if you have a virtual event that you're adding to a physical race. If you're doing a virtual only race, you can customize the race location. When you set up a race on RunSignup, you do have to add an address. That can be confusing for virtual races. So with these settings, you can customize the description to say anytime, any place, anywhere you want, whatever you want, and then choose to hide the place section. So that's going to override the place on your race page to make it a little bit more clear. One of the questions I get, let your runners know when their packages will ship. Every virtual race, whether it's a physical race or a virtual race, from what I've seen, everyone does it a little bit differently. Some people will ship out their packages within 2 weeks of you registering. Some people do it all in one batch. Some people start 2 months down the line and then do it in intervals. Just make it clear. When people know when they're actually going to get their stuff, they're going to register. And if you have a customer service team, or if you are your own customer service team, don't make it harder on yourself, because if they don't know when their stuff is going to ship, they're going to ask you, where's my stuff? And then planning ahead. I do work with some virtual races, and it's not funny, but when I get the question of, I literally had no idea that it would take more than 2 hours to mail out 1,000 packages. So plan ahead, come up with some sort of shipping plan, make sure to budget in postage. I have some slides for that at the end of the presentation, but having some sort of plan in place ahead of time is very helpful. Making your virtual race stand out. So with a virtual race, you kind of want to think about it as e-commerce. It's different from a race. It's people who are registering because they like the shirt, they like the bling, they want it mailed out to them. You're doing the race on your own, but you're getting your gear in the mail. And so people don't really, would you buy something if you had no idea what you were getting or what it looked like? So include pictures of your gear and your virtual options on your race page. You can add it to your description, you can add a custom section, you can make the custom section a tab, but really highlight it, because with the virtual option, that's kind of all they're getting. And then explain what virtual races are. They're still relatively new. There's a lot of virtual race companies out there, but they're still growing. So we'll get into stats a little bit later, but just explain it. Some people don't understand what a virtual race is. When they actually understand it, they want to do it. So one thing I saw that worked well for a physical race that had a virtual option is they added to their incomplete registration email. Can't make it to the race this year? Do you know about our virtual option? So promoting it, putting that on the race page, putting it in the incomplete registration emails, things like that. And then virtual results. So we do have a virtual results text notification system. You don't have to use it, but if you are, obviously you don't have to use it. But a lot of people who participate in a virtual event, they like to be able to post their results. It gives them a sense of accomplishment. There's other ways that you can do this, though. I will go through our virtual race notification settings and what they look like next. So easy way and some hard ways. You can use a Google form. Some races will have the virtual runners email them. So that's adding a lot of work to your plate. Some races require proof. You have to send a picture from Garmin or Strava or Map My Run. A lot of people don't have that. There are some virtual race companies out there that built their own custom running tracking app. It's a little bit much. And then some races just don't do results at all. Just on the honor system, we trust you. Virtual text results, so we'll do a quick overview of our virtual text system and what it looks like to the registrant and what it looks like when they actually receive the text on race day. So it does make it easy for their runners. They are literally submitting their text, their time through a text. They can also do it by email. They choose during the registration process. They can also opt out of submitting their time. But my favorite, for people like me, you want to say that you've finished, but maybe you don't. No one needs to know that it took me an hour and a half to run 3 miles. So I just want to say that I'm finished. So that's one of the options. You can just say that you finished. It adds them to a finisher list. That way they can still get their finisher certificate without submitting a time.
Is there a best practice? I guess we'll get to this, but a best practice for you mail everything out ahead of time, or you wait till you get the results and you actually did it?
My personal preference is people want their stuff. Yeah,
so
they don't.
They're not waiting for results when they actually ever did it.
That's the whole social aspect of it, which I do have a slide about it, but people like to get dressed up and wear their stuff and turn it into a day with their friends. It's not as fun when you don't have your medal to celebrate immediately after. So we do have a very detailed blog that goes through how to set up the virtual results. You could also stop by the demo room and one of our account managers or myself, we can walk you through how to set it up. And then it is part of our review queue. So if you set up, so at RunSignup, all the account managers, we have a review queue. So if you've ever gotten a creepy email from one of us that is like, I see that you just added this, and you're like, how did you know? That's how we know. So once you set up virtual results, it does go into our queue so we can check your settings, make sure that you have it set up correctly. And then our virtual text notifications, they work best when bib numbers are assigned. And I'll show you a screenshot of why. But this is what it looks like to the user. So it adds another page to registration for the virtual race or the virtual event. They can choose if they want to submit their results by text message or by email, or completely opt out, enter in their phone number, and then they choose their time zone. So that's my favorite part. That way, if you are choosing to set up the text notification to go out at 9 in the morning, I'm getting it at 9 in the morning Pacific time instead of being woken up at 6 in the morning. It's race day. Bob gets his text, post your results. It tells him what his bib number is and the code to use. He replies back with his time. His time and his bib number are added to the results. His time is posted. He can now download his finisher certificate. So it's as easy as that. That is our virtual text notification system. Referrals. Yes, everyone should use referrals for everything at every time, always. But how do they play into virtual races and virtual events? Because you're doing the virtual event on your own with your friends, virtual events have a crazy high percentage of referrals when you're using them correctly and when you're giving your registrants the tools to actually share and when you have a decent referral program. So this is kind of what I was talking about. It's way more fun to get dressed up with your friends and run around your neighborhood instead of doing it by yourself. But what do we recommend? Referral refunds. We have the suggested referral refund amounts. When you turn on referral refunds, our suggested amount for what we see working the best is refer 4 friends, get a $20 refund. You can do whatever amounts that you want, but it's going to work best for your race when you set a threshold of 4 or 5. When you do a 1-to-1 referral ratio, one, you're offering a lower refund amount. So if I see a pop-up, get $1 for every person you refer, I'm not motivated by that. I don't think many people are motivated by $1. So by adding the threshold of refer 5 people, get $10 back, or whatever amount you want to set. That $10 is what's going to motivate them to share and actually take the time to post on Facebook. And then we have swag rewards. I recommend that you use them and stack them. When you aren't stacking refunds and swag, people will earn that refund and then stop sharing because there's no incentive for them to keep referring people to your race for you. So you can do something like refer 5 friends, get the $20 refund, refer 10, get a hat, whatever you want. And then social sharing settings, take the time to customize your social sharing text and add images. Images of smiling, happy people work best. If you don't take the time to upload a social sharing image, we're just going to show your race logo. If I share on Facebook, the way that share appears, it looks like an ad. So think about what you would put in an ad. You're going to use a picture of a smiling, happy person. You're not just going to do an ad with your race logo. And then use registration follow-up emails to promote your program. One of the tags that we have is the race referral URL. So you can actually, every single person who registers for your race will get a unique email that says, "Dear Natalie, thanks for registering. Don't forget you can earn this. Here's your unique link." And I have a full webinar that outlines every single thing you could ever want to do to set up the best referral program ever. And it's just at runsignup.com/swag. Or you can ask me. Make sure you have time because I'm a total nerd and I will talk to you for a while about it. Yes.
Have you guys made any enhancements so that the participant can understand for themselves how many people have actually used this code?
Yeah, we've had that for a couple years. You can go to your profile, and then at the bottom, there's a section for My Referrals, and I can see the total number of referrals and their first name and their initial.
Okay.
Yep. And then engagement. How do you make your virtual runners engage with your event? These are just some of the things that I've seen work well, where a lot of people were really engaged with the virtual run. So creating a Facebook event. So let's say you're a physical race, but you have a virtual option. If you're creating a Facebook event, it's a good idea to create a Facebook event for your physical race and then a Facebook event for your virtual event. That way you can actually promote that virtual event independently of your race. And then when you're sending out your swag or your gear, whatever you call it, it's nice to include some sort of info card and then post in the event page, email your people, tell them to post selfies of themselves and their gear with their medal, and just create a hashtag for whatever your run is called. And then I'm in a lot of virtual Facebook groups just for training purposes, so I could come up with content for this presentation. A majority of the posts that I see in there are people asking others for advice on training and what are you doing this week? So it's a lot of newbie runners. I think this is where it falls into what I was saying about it's people who want to do a race but don't feel comfortable doing it in a crowd yet. So let people post in your Facebook group. And then you can do a private Facebook group or a public Facebook group. Public Facebook groups kind of give them that sense of exclusivity. Like you'll be able to join this group once you actually register. Private is just more open, so it's really up to you. Some races will also do Strava or training clubs. We do have a Strava club integration. It's not actually really an integration, it just shows your Strava club on the RunSignup page, but some races are using that and seeing success. And then teams. So you can turn on teams for your virtual run. That way I can create Team RunSignup and make Whitney sign up with me or whatever. Any questions about that? And then just ask. So in your confirmation email, when you customize the social sharing text, we automatically populate that verbiage into the confirmation email for you. But you can add additional text there. Help us grow our event. We're raising money for blah, blah, blah. This is our goal. Help us reach it by sharing and referring your friends. And then just ask people to like your Facebook page, or if you have a Facebook event page, then put that link in your confirmation email and tell people to indicate that they're going and share that page with their friends as well. And then give thanks. People don't really notice. It kind of goes over their head if you never actually send them an email after the event thanking them or asking for feedback or things like that. But people really notice when you actually take the time to do that. So I actually recommend this for any race, not just a virtual race, but sending that email out that says, thanks to you, we raised $1,000 for San Diego Humane Society or whatever it is, asking people how it went, sharing the link to your event page or your Facebook page again, telling them to post selfies with that hashtag. All right. Virtual race stats. So in 2019, we had 1,455 physical races that added a virtual option. There were only 128 races that were virtual only. There was a total of 90,000 virtual registrations between all of those races. This is the most interesting part. 50% registered for a virtual only race, 50% registered for the physical race with the virtual option. So the takeaway is that virtual races are growing, but also that physical races are missing out by not promoting that virtual option more. I've heard from race directors who have added a virtual option. Yeah, virtual events don't work. No one wants to do virtual. And then when I ask them, how did you promote your virtual option? They're like, what do you mean? It's on our race page. Well, right, but just because you have it doesn't mean people are going to flood to it and want to register. So taking the time to promote it. And then it's all about that bling. So no surprise here, 75% of the virtual registrants were female, and then 25% were male across those 90,000 registrations. And then for the virtual registrations, the age ranges are evenly distributed, just like they are for physical races. But the one difference is that there was a little bit of a shift. So we're seeing there's a higher percent of the older demographic registering for virtual events. Fewer millennials than you would think. And the top states where they were registering from. That's where the packages were shipped to. Yeah, the big states and then, surprisingly, the cold states.
Do you have any stats about what the average entry fee was for the virtual races?
Sure do. It's coming up.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Okay, now random things for me. So shipping, I get questions about, we didn't see a lot of success with our virtual event. We want to be able to ship internationally. We'll make more money. We're going to open it up to the whole world and people will want to do it. So not necessarily true, but if you are going to do that, you would have to add an extra event. So you'd have your virtual domestic, virtual international, and then charge 2 different prices. And then make sure to factor in those prices. So yeah, it's a big difference. And so I just did San Diego to New York, but actually in January of 2019, USPS changed all of the way that shipping packages works. So in 2018, for me to ship a package to LA or New York, it was the same price. Now there's 8 different zones. So for me to ship a package, a 9-ounce package to LA, it's like $315, and then to New York, it's $433. So it's totally different. I also recommend using automated shipping software for virtual stuff if you start seeing your virtual events grow, or you can stand in the post office with your thousands of packages for a full day. So sales tax is the hot topic at this conference, and it has been for the last 6 months. I'm pretty sick of hearing about it and talking about it, but I wanted to go over how it plays into virtual events. So actually for a few months, our lawyers and the sales tax consulting firm, everyone was going back and forth. Is a virtual race registration merchandise, or is it just a regular registration fee? And for a few months, they did want to view everything virtual as merchandise. And then we got lucky, and that is not how they view it anymore. So sales tax with virtual race registration, it's just viewed as a normal race registration. So if you're registering from California for a virtual event, California is a state that doesn't charge sales tax on a registration fee. So they would only be paying sales tax on additional merchandise. Or if you're charging a separate shipping and handling fee, they would technically pay sales tax on that. So we view merchandise. So all the states have different rules about merchandise. But usually when the merchandise is being shipped out, the sales tax has to be charged based on the address where the merchandise is being shipped to. So that's how it would work for virtual. And then the average cost. So the average cost of virtual registrations on RunSignup are in between $25 and $55. I did have a few races that tested out a half marathon virtual option for $150. They did not sell very many of those. So just something to keep in mind. What would you actually pay for a shirt and a bib and a medal? Not you as the race director, but you as a consumer. So, and I do get feedback on that. Like, well, if our half marathon is $150 and our virtual half marathon is $50, won't we lose people from our physical race? And yeah, you probably will, but those are people that probably never intended on paying the $50 anyway. So by having that extra option, you'd still be retaining them as a customer. And we're done. But we have like 15 minutes for questions. Okay, we'll start on the left.
Okay. You may not have hard stats on this, but going back to being able to post results at virtual races, do you kind of have an idea of the breakdown of virtual races that you guys do that do offer results of posting results of some kind and that don't offer it?
I don't, because we don't have very many races using that virtual text option yet. But that's probably something we will be able to add to our next race trends report, or maybe in the next 6 months when we collect data, we could post something about that.
So I have a half marathon in New York City in February. Nice, lovely, snowy weather. I offer the virtual for reasons like that they can't come or they're injured. So my question is, I've already got registration open because the race is in 5 weeks. But when I go in there to like try to enable like the texting, like I'm getting like these warnings saying you can't do that because registration is already open. So is that virtual text messaging thing like only available like before I
No, you should be able to turn it on. I have a feeling the error message that you're getting is because you don't have automatic bib assignment set up. So it's just telling you it's going to be harder for people to post results if you turn this on now without turning out automatic bib assignments. Right. So that's fine. We can sit down and go through that. Okay. She's been waiting the longest.
Oh, yeah, no. Are there any options, like we have a lot of families that do our race, and what we did last year is we switched it to the adult pricing and student pricing. So a family of 4, even if it's $25, $100 is still a buy. So we've kind of adjusted that to have child pricing. But is there another way to almost like incentivize people to ship so that you can ship packages together?
I do have a race that's doing something similar, and they're doing it with teams. So they're saying all team packages will be shipped together. So you could just create a team type and call it family team. Because I think if you called it teams, that would be a little bit, people would get confused by that. But if you called it family teams and then use the team description to say, by registering as a team, all of your packages will be mailed together. And then you could we have quite a few different team pricing options, but you could just give everyone a discount by joining a team, or you could limit it to 5 members, have the person setting up the team pay $100 or whatever, and then the next 4 members would join for free. So we could go through that too. Okay. Yes.
My question's about Strava. Is that something we set up with RunSignup, or do we do it through Strava? Because we were just talking about it at like breakfast. We don't exactly know how to get it on there, like a race.
So In the back end of the race under sponsors, national sponsors, you can choose to enable Strava. That adds a tab and that adds a bar on the race page. On that same page, you could add your Strava club name or ID, but you do have to actually set up the club in Strava.
Okay.
Anyone else? Yes.
Have you noticed any difference or training if you do a separate shipping and handling cost, or just increase your registration fee that would cover that and don't mention it?
Yes, a majority of virtual races are not charging that shipping and handling fee. We do have a way to add it. You would set it up as an extra fee, and then it shows at the bottom of the race page, but we all know that no one reads anything. So then they're saying that shipping and handling fee on the cart page. You will see a really high percentage of people drop out when you're doing it that way. People like their pricing to be upfront. So it is better to include it if you can. So, yes.
Virtual only races, what were the race distances? So were they mostly 5Ks or?
5Ks and 10Ks, yep. And then another thing that I actually forgot to add, but you mentioned it, is a lot of people registering for virtual races, they're newbies, and so even a 5K can be a little bit much for them. So adding something like your 5K or your 10K does not have to be completed all at the same time. You would just add up your mileage. That's really helpful too. So if you are, but people do like to see a distance. If you just say, do whatever you want, people are not motivated by that. That's really not fun or motivating or a challenge for people. So do post a distance, but then add that if that's one of your rules, add that they don't have to complete it all at the same time.
Natalie, do you connect your charities to virtual in the same way you would your physical race?
Yes. Yep. And because virtuals are pretty much like you should approach them as e-commerce, which I've said, that charity checkbox works amazing. So you'll see a higher percentage of people checking that box than you will with a physical race. Okay. I'm around if you have any questions, but it's lunchtime, so ta-da.